Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy, a weekly podcast dedicated to supporting the next generation of child and adolescent therapists to provide exceptional play therapy services. We'll explore all things play therapy to elevate your work with children and adolescents using the therapeutic powers of play. I'll discuss practical tips and ideas so you can provide a transformative experience for your young clients and make a real difference in their lives. So get ready to take your play therapy skills to the next level and make a lasting impact in the lives of children, adolescents, and families. Welcome, everybody, to this week's live stream episode. So I go live every week and talk about all things play therapy and expressive arts. And this week, we're going to talk about themes. I think whether you're a seasoned play therapist or brand new to the field and you're just learning play therapy, learning how to recognize themes is a really important part of the play therapy process. And it's very complex. It's not like, oh, do this and then you'll know that. There's a lot of factors that go into using, recognizing themes in play therapy. So, and one of those things is your play therapy theoretical model is going to influence the way in which you make sense of what you see in the playroom. And that includes when you are making sense of play behaviors and play themes. And these are core competencies that the Association for Play Therapy has identified. And so I feel like it's a really important topic. And so I was so excited. Like you can ask my husband, I was jumping up and down, being a total nerd. But he's used to me doing that, so we're good. But anyway, so I was so excited when Jodi agreed to be my guest. So I want to do a proper introduction, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Dr. Jodi Mullen is a professor at SUNY Oswego in Counseling and Psychological Services Department, where she's a counselor educator for nearly 30 years. She's also the director of integrative counseling services, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the trainings that Dr. Mullen has coming up. So you'll want to stay tuned for the end where she's going to talk about that and some of the other services that she offers. She's also an international speaker, author, and most of you, I know I do, you probably have some of her books because they're awesome. She's also a credentialed play therapist and play therapy supervisor. She provides training, consultation, supervision to professional helpers all over the world. And she was also the recipient in 2008 of the Key Award for professional training and education through the Association for Play Therapy. And I would think she would probably agree with me. Her most amazing job of all is being the proud mama of Leah and Andrew. Yes. So welcome, Dr. Mullen.
Thank you.
Being willing to be part of this podcast. I mean, well, it'll eventually be a podcast. For now, it's a live stream. So welcome.
Both things. It would be great. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm like you, I'm always delighted to be nerding out and talking about all things play therapy. So this is an awesome opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yes, this is great. So first of all, I thought one of the things, so here's the thing. I think I probably told you this in an email. I saw one of your posts on social media, and I think you were doing a training on play themes, and you did a screenshot of one of your slides. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the best analogy I have ever heard in my entire 30-year career, which is you use the analogy. I think it was play themes are like the main points in a story.
Yes.
And so I loved that analogy of using play themes. So the other thing is, so let me just take a moment. If I would love for any of you who are participating, go ahead and post your name in the comments, post where you're from, what population you work with. If you have questions, that is awesome. The only thing that I would ask is we want to make sure we're maintaining client privacy.
Yeah.
So please don't ask specific questions about, questions about specific clients. And if you have a question or want to make a comment or just join in the conversation, let's make sure just to keep it more general in nature. And that'll be awesome. So we have Brianna, and she says, looking forward to being able to act. Oh, cool. Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to being able to do them. Very excited about that. And then we have Facebook user, which I'm not sure who that is, but welcome, Facebook user. I'm assuming you are in my Facebook group, which is Play and Expressive Arts Therapy Playground. So I'm going to go in there and find out who you are. And didn't see you on Instagram. I know this week, because I was trying to, I don't know if you caught all my ramblings at the beginning of this live stream, but I was trying to get StreamYard now lets me stream on Instagram, but too much echo. It was horrendous. So what we'll do, we'll post the replay on StreamYard if it will let, on Instagram. Sometimes Instagram won't let us. It's kind of funny that way. But anyways, yeah. So we also have Carrie from New York. And Carla. Carla. Yes, Carla is from Mexico. She and I chat a bit. We nerd out about family play therapy. She is amazing what she is doing to bring play therapy into Mexico. So it's really cool. So Brianna from Madison, Wisconsin, child and family therapist in elementary school, and just starting my career as a therapist. That's very exciting.
Welcome to the club.
Exactly. Natasha from Roanoke, which is Virginia is my old stomping grounds. We moved to the West Coast about 7 years ago. So welcome, Tasha. And then we also have Jennifer. She's in Alaska. So cool. Adults, children, disabled, and SMI population. Very cool. And then Cathi. Hi, Cathi. Cathy's been on some of my previous live stream episodes. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, I thought we could talk a little bit about what are play themes. And I don't know if you want to offer up some tips, Jodi, about like how you describe what play themes are to the people that you're working with when you're doing supervision and trainings.
Yeah. Well, I think, we can simplify them. First of all, I think that they, for a lot of us, they sound big and scary and like looming over what we do, but they really are the main point of the story. And so if we think of, and as play therapists, this is part of what brings us all together, regardless of theoretical orientation, is that play is a language, right? And so if we're thinking about play as a language, and the communication, then what is the story that the child or a person doing play therapy is trying to communicate to us? So it's the main point. It's what do they want us to take away from and I think this is important. It could be the individual session, but it could be over the course of their treatment, over several sessions. So when you're thinking about the theme of the work that the child is doing, it could be just in that session that the theme in that session was power and control, which is going to be a theme in almost every session. First of all, so exactly. That's not such an easy, difficult one to see. But so you could see that power and control was a theme in this particular session, but you may see that power and control is a theme over a number of sessions. It's regardless of what the child was communicating, whether it was through play, their nonverbals, their paraverbals, or what they're saying is that that theme keeps popping up. It's so there's some of you and some people, and I think I'm one of them, who do it quite naturally because we're big picture people. So it's like you're panning out and you're going like, all right, what's the big picture that they want us to understand here? For those of you who are more detail oriented, it tends to be a more complicated process because it's not your natural sort of instinct to pan out and take a step back and say, what's the bigger picture of this? And so so for me, like where I would struggle more is like, is the details of really anything.
Right.
But the bigger picture,
Exactly.
right, really shows itself. So part of even how I like really got interested in themes in play therapy was in supervision and training is how do I deconstruct what comes fairly naturally to me to help other people be able to tease those out. And then why are we even teasing them out? So if we get, so yes, it's the main point of the story, right? But also then what does that do for us in connection to our work with the children that we're working with? So that was just the start of it. Did I answer your question there, Cathi?
Yeah, I think that's I love the way you describe it also as a story. And there are two different ways of kind of approaching the process. So some people are more big picture, and you can kind of sit back and look at it and kind of pick out those main points in the story. And then others are more detailed, and it's kind of like you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
And you have to kind of learn how to step back and then take a look.
Yeah.
And also that it is like we've all read stories, right? We've all learned how to look for the main points in a story. And that's exactly what I loved about that analogy that you use, where you're looking at children's communication.
Right.
Regardless of your theoretical model, they're communicating.
Yes.
The theory model influences how you make sense of it, and play is play across all of those models. And so being able to think of it that way and then go in and recognize what the main point is.
Right.
And then usually later, we don't usually do it in the sessions because we're fully, focused on being fully present and congruent and all those kinds of things. But this is usually something we do afterwards. Like I'm usually doing it when I'm doing the progress note, because I'm like, okay, what were the main points? What were the themes? What were they communicating?
Yeah.
And so and that's usually when I do it.
Well, and that can be really helpful too. One of the things that we do here at Integrative Counseling Services is we have like a play therapy note form. And so one of the things that is like a checkbox really is, what were the themes that the child shows in the session? And I think just thinking in terms of that, like if you're writing that in your note, it kind of sets the stage then for you to be looking for it, right? So then you're already looking for it, because when you then write it in the note, it's like, what was the child trying to communicate there? The other thing that I think it can be really helpful with, which might not be so intuitive, is it's helpful with consulting with parents or consulting with individuals who are involved in the child's life. And so I'm, reluctant to give specific examples sometimes of what a child is doing or even saying during their sessions. But if I talk about an overall theme, I find that much more, respectful to the child. It makes it like easier for parents, even other mental health professionals, to digest. So rather than say, I'll give you an example. So in a play therapy session, and I say that I use mostly humanistic play therapy practices. So, so in this child-centered play therapy session, a child pretended to slice me open from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, and I feel like if I said, "So in your child session this week, they pretended to eviscerate me," that would not go over so well, and it would be very complicated to understand. So if instead I talked about the theme of that, one of the themes in your child's play is that they really need to know what's on the inside for people, that trust is an issue for them. And so that would be the theme. And that's not just out of the one thing that they did.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constellation of behaviors, but that talking about a theme of that trust is difficult for them, and that this is how it shows up behaviorally, that now being able to use a theme to talk about that rather than specific things that they're doing in their play, I think gives me a much more common language to use with educators, with parents, with even other mental health professionals who are not trained in play therapy.
Right. I totally agree. I tell people the same thing when I'm doing my consultation program and trainings, because parents, they don't know. They look at us, like I'll tell people all the time, you may not feel like an expert, but you are the expert.
Yes. Yeah.
And you are the expert.
Mm-hmm.
You have the training. Maybe don't feel like you have a ton of experience, and you have more than parents usually, unless you are working with the child of a play therapist.
Well, and also your investment is different. So like, I think it was Brianna who was saying she was just starting, is it's sometimes easier for us to see a bigger picture when it's not like, it's not our child, it's not a student in our classroom of 20 other students, right? So to be able to say like, that this is what I'm seeing from this communication. And I also think, at first when you're not feeling confident about it, to even state it as a hypothesis to yourself, like, I think the theme or the theme here might be this, I think can be really helpful in that way as well.
Yeah, I agree for sure. And even now, like 30 years in, I'm like, I still use that hypothesis because I want to see it over time.
Right.
I want to kind of make sure that I'm understanding it correctly. All of those things. Yeah.
It also can be, and again, this relates to both like our case conceptualization and consultation, is it also can be some of the evidence we have about like healing, growth, change, right? Is that if a child starts off and their theme is like trust and betrayal, their themes are trust and betrayal, and then 10, 12 sessions down the line, we're not seeing that anymore. Now we see a theme of competency, or we see a theme of even grief, is that we know that there was a shift, that there's something changed. And so for that gives us a lot of good information too, especially when we're feeling like, I'm not really sure what's happening here, is to say like, well, when they came in, the first couple of times, we could really see, I mean, the obvious themes are exploration, the first couple of sessions, and power and control, especially if you're using a non-directive, humanistic kind of approach. But then after that is like, okay, so now like what's happening there with that? So it gives us good information about how a child is progressing as well. So there's clues connected to themes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think also we may see whatever, depending on what's going on in the child's life, we may see them regress back to themes earlier, in an earlier stage, which, I tell people it's just like talk therapy, where it's just a different language that you're learning to communicate with your clients. And just like in traditional grown-up talk therapy, things happen in people's lives and they may regress a bit. And so being able to recognize those themes and the nuances of the themes helps you see where they are in the treatment process, as well as, when they're regressing, which gives you an idea, something's probably going on. I probably need to have a conversation with parents or guardians.
Yeah. Because there has been a regression in not just their play, but in the overall theme. The other thing, as you say that too, is making me think about how when we read a story, if you and I read the same story, that we may have picked out completely different themes.
Oh, such a good point.
Right? And so the same is true in play therapy. And that's part of why supervision, right, is such an asset, because you may pick out, and this is something I do with my supervisees pretty regularly, is I'll ask them, what themes did you see in the session? And if I've reviewed the session, I have the themes that I saw, and they may be different. And that's because we're looking through different lenses. It's not a right or a wrong.
Right.
And so again, especially for those of you who are new, but those of you who don't feel confident about teasing out themes, like that's another way to look at it, is like, you really can't be wrong about it. It's what did you see? And that it's very different when you're in the room with the child than even if I was watching a recorded session of yours, that you're going to feel and sense things. And that is part of being able to tease out themes as well, is being really open to, like, not just what am I seeing, but also what am I feeling, experiencing, and using all of the different ways that communication impacts us to identify a theme as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. Like, I love using neuroscience and attachment theory to understand things. And I really feel like for most play therapy theoretical models, you can even look at it through an understanding from an attachment and neuroscience lens. And Daniel Siegel talks about our resonance circuits, where we're kind of fully tuned in and picking up and connecting mind to mind. And when we can do that, fully present in the moment, attuned with our client, then we're going to pick up all kinds of things.
Right. And not rule that out, right? Not to rule that out. And in something as, as something as just like, picking out a theme. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that I shared was, because it can seem like an intimidating endeavor, is to simplify it. And so one way to simplify it is to think about, okay, so if I had to give this session a title, what would the title of the session be? Because oftentimes that's going to be connected to the main point of the story.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, right? So what would be the title? Or for like a number of sessions. So if I'm working with a child in the first 6 months, what would I say? How would I title our work together there? That might give me some clues about the theme and the overriding message, the overriding communication that is coming through that child's different ways of communicating, including their play. And then another way, and this would be really fun, I think, to do with you, given what your background looks like, is to choose some sound figures, right? So what a
good idea.
Yeah, could I pick a few? Could I pick one or a few sound figures, even just the figures, even not going into the sound tray play therapy aspect, but you could also do that. What would that look like? What figures would I choose? And then sort of taking that back and then looking at is there a theme to those particular figures? What do those figures speak and say? So that's another way. And I am not remotely musically inclined, but I do notice that sometimes when I'm sitting with a child in a play therapy session, a song will pop into my head, or some sort of background music. And I think oftentimes, because of the way that music is connected to us, that is also perhaps a way to help us get at a theme. So there's lots of different ways to get at it. And part of it is knowing what your own strength is in being able to like take in a bunch of information and then discern what's the most important aspects of it.
Yeah, I think those are really good tips to think about. And I think the investment of time in the front end, especially like when you're just learning, it can feel a little overwhelming and it feels like there's just too much to do. I think like those suggestions that you made, if you take the time to get in the habit of how you show up in the playroom, like your presence, and paying attention to, like you gave the analogy or, the examples of music or some ideas about using the sand tray. I think when you get in the habit of doing that and kind of breaking it down and deconstructing, as you said, it becomes second nature.
Yes.
At some point.
Yes.
And then you just kind of feel like we all get stumped.
Sure.
That doesn't ever go away. So for those of you who are just getting started, nobody ever does it perfectly through, there's no magical time in your career where you're like, wow, I've arrived and everything's so easy peasy.
Yeah. I mean, I think what total we have like over 60 years experience,
probably,
right? Yeah. Doing this. And I would say, I will do a play therapy session a little bit later today and I will make a mistake and I will miss something. And so I think though, in some ways that like, that's why I find themes comforting, because even if I missed something or I got something wrong, I did see the big picture. And I think that sometimes can be really helpful as like, there's definitely going to be missed opportunities and missed miscommunications. But if you get the big picture, by the way that you respond to, I get the big picture, that conveys that to the child. And so that becomes another important aspect of themes, because like for me in doing child-centered play therapy, if I can tease out a theme, then there's a whole bunch of words that go along with that, like reflective words that go along with that theme.
Yes.
Those things now inform each other. And you can do it in reverse too. If I can hear myself using like a variety of words that those words have a theme, like if all my reflections are like, you're excited, you're so psyched about that, you're so happy you did that, you're so satisfied, right? Now I have an idea what the theme might be. And in reverse, if I'm like, the theme here is grief, for instance, now what are the words that go along with that? So both can help inform each other.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Well, that kind of wraps up our discussion for today. I hope you guys found I know it does go fast. It goes so fast. I could like go on forever. I'm guessing you and I could probably chat for like another hour, which is fun. And so I did want to give an opportunity for Dr. Mullen to talk a little bit about some of the training she's doing, some of the services. So if any of you are interested, so you can know where to find her and get more connected. So do you want to say a little bit about some of the trainings you have? And what we'll do also in the comments, we'll post a link to her website. So you can pop over to her website and check out what she has going on. So that will be in the comments. I think I also put it in the description. So if you go in the description, you'll find it there as well. Yeah, I can see Brill has posted that already in the comments. So do you want to talk about some of the things that you have going on?
Sure. Sure. So, I would say that one of my first loves is in play therapy is supervision. And so Dr. Athena Drews and I just came out with our second edition of Supervision Can Be Playful. So
yeah, well, I have your first edition of that one.
Thanks. Well, this one is pretty comprehensive and
good.
super excited about it. Just came out. So if you're a person who is doing supervision, it's like soup to nuts of supervision, play therapy, and child therapy supervision in there. And so I wanted to alert you to that. And for those of you who are not doing supervision, the turnaround time in being a play therapy supervisor is very quick. And yeah, and there we
It's
are.
a good book. It's really good. I feel like if you're doing play therapy, especially as you go along, it's kind of a staple.
Thank you. That means a lot. And then just coming up in the month of January, I'll be in Severna Park, Maryland, doing 2 full-day presentations in person, of all things. Right. The first day is just on straight up play therapy, and the second day is play therapy with traumatized children. So that's what I have coming up live. I do quite a bit online and some self-studies courses, and will be hopefully traveling quite a bit and bringing my show on the road, so to speak. But you can find out about that at our website, and there's a place to sign up for like emails. So if you wanted to keep in the loop. And then I'm on social media, so any connections there. But I do, like Cathi, I do love the feedback, and like if you had a takeaway from today, I'd love to hear about that. So I
post that. If you guys have a takeaway, go ahead and post that in the comments. That is really helpful to have that information.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, it's helpful for us just to know what resonates, so that we make sure we are giving you what you need, really.
Yeah.
And that it's actually helpful.
Yes. Well, and I think that's it too. I think that's part of how we came together, right? Is like that we're very dedicated, not just to our clients, but to the play therapy field in general. And so, how can, I think I'm speaking for both of us, how can we do more of that and do that better? Because it definitely is something that is important. Like it's a core value for me at this point. So thank you for letting me share that as well.
It's kind of like training, at this point, really kind of giving back to the profession by supporting the next generation of play therapists. And because at some point we're not going to be doing it anymore. And what? I can't even imagine. People ask me all the time, like, when are you going to retire? I'm like, why? Why do I want to do that? It seems kind of silly to me. Anyways, so Jennifer said, found it very helpful. If you were doing this session, I love that one too. Yeah.
Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, and I mean, I think like what we're saying is like, this is the ripple effect, right? Like that at this point, how do we give back and keep people doing this such important work? So again, thank you, Cathi, for having me.
You are welcome. Thank you for being my guest. It was so awesome.
Great.
All righty. And for those of you who, I don't know, I'm hoping you caught this on the website. There are some pre-recorded. So there's some that you can take in your time zone and when it's convenient for you. So there's trainings on there on the website. So you definitely want to head over there. And thank you so much for joining me today. And I will see you guys again next week. So bye for now.
Bye. Thank you, Cathi.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Level Play Therapy. I hope you found the discussion valuable and gained new insights and ideas to support your work helping children, adolescents, and families heal. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps to improve and reach more people who can benefit from this information. Remember, play therapy is a powerful tool for healing and growth. Whether you're a new play therapist or experienced, I encourage you to continue your learning journey to unlock the potential of play in your own work and relationships. If you have any questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media and visit my website at Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training to stay updated on upcoming episodes, trainings, and resources. Thank you once again for listening to Next Level Play Therapy. Until next time, keep playing, learning, and growing.